Hello and welcome. This is Best Foot Forward Shoes, the podcast, and this is episode 22. And today we have a very, very special guest. It is the Broski himself, all the way from Manchester in the UK. It is Erkin Hassan. How are you going, mate? I know it's early morning over there on a Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
All good, man. All good. It's a pleasure to feature. I know you got some big hitters featuring on the podcast, and I'm glad to be here, man. Hope you're all good as well.
Yep, very good. It's late afternoon here, so we've had a pretty busy week. I had a little bit of dental work done this week that was unplanned. So if I sound a little bit mumbled, it's because I don't have any wisdom teeth anymore. So, but I think we're okay. I think I'm all cognizantly there. So, but yeah, I would not recommend leaving dentist visits to anyone. Like, don't leave it too late. What I'm trying to say. But yeah, we've been good over here. So as I was talking to you before, we survived a bit of a cyclone, tropical storm here, but the weather seems to be turning, getting a bit cooler, which is great, a bit drier, which is great. So how is it going over there in the UK?
Yeah, it's all right. It's obviously as bipolar as ever. You know, sometimes it's like sunny, as you can see on the camera, but sometimes it's just raining for the fun of it, you know. I think it's just one of them things you get used to in the UK. But yeah, all good so far. Touch wood, you know.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, we're going to chat a little bit about some Air Max sneakers, which is your kind of forte, because March, as a lot of people know, is Air Max month, and this is a month where a lot of people feature their Air Max shoes, and we thought we'd go through a quick top 5 with some honorable mentions about, you know, some of our favorite pairs, not necessarily ones that we have in hand or in the collection, but some of the ones that we can appreciate from afar, and then also some that we actually do have. So we're going to be chatting about those, but just wanted to kind of have a chat to you about where you've come from in terms of like your sneaker collecting journey. Like, where does this passion for sneakers and content creation come from?
Well, with sneakers, it all really started from way younger than it should have, to be honest, because I blame my brother and sister, my older brother and sister. They always had the freshest Huaraches, Air Max 1s, Air Max 90s, you know, just growing up as a 90s baby. And yeah, it was kind of, oh my God, I like that color. And then nostalgia kicks in eventually. You start getting your own money, then you sort of reach back for all the shoes that you couldn't get as a kid or that you had as a kid, you know. And yeah, it kind of stemmed from there. Only recently started collecting seriously, I'd say about 2018, just before COVID, and then content creation again just before the pandemic. So around 2019, just a year after, we just was rebranding. We started off with like fitness content. So I was a PT, was a PT by trade, as you can see, not anymore. But yeah, we was doing fitness stuff. Then we did like challenges, you know, like chili challenge, prank stuff like that. And then started a podcast with like no substance back then, no topics and stuff. But yeah, then 2019, just sort of thought to myself, what do I enjoy more than fitness and stuff like that? Started to buy more shoes at that time as well. And I thought whatever shoes I get in, I'll get on camera. And then, yeah, it just stemmed from there. I think I started off with the Nike Zoom 2K, which is nowhere to be seen right now. Then the Air Max 720, and then the Air Force One Flyknit 2.0. So there was it kind of snowballed into like views upon views. And I was like, wow, okay, we're onto something. I sort of doubled my subscriber count within like 3 months compared to 2013 I was on the platform. Yeah, it was just crazy, man. So I thought I'm onto something, and then yeah, we're here how we are today.
It happened. It can happen quickly, can't it? Like, you can quickly just, for some reason, I feel like that kind of COVID time, I really wish I'd kind of started around then, because that was kind of when I first started getting into sneakers, and I feel like I kind of missed the boat a little bit. Trying to come into a sort of oversaturated market at the moment is kind of hard. It's kind of, everyone has a kind of sneaker Instagram or has some sort of reviews going, and the chase of trying to always wanting to get the newest shoe to kind of be incredibly relevant, it's a little bit hard one to kind of keep up with. And I think that when you came in, there was a lot of like, I guess, purity in some way. I'm not sure what really happened around that kind of COVID time. It's kind of, I always think of, you know, the Panda Dunks that sort of thing was the time when people kind of switched from just being a normal, you know, oh, I like this shoe, to actually, oh, I'm a sneakerhead because I have a Dunk, like a Nike Dunk. Like that was this mentality switch. Do you feel that you've kind of you missed, you came in before that trend started to happen?
Yeah, definitely. I did miss obviously one of my grails, the Sean Wotherspoons, which we will touch on, but there were a lot of shoes making waves, obviously the off-whites beforehand and stuff like that. But when I jumped into it, it was just for the love of it, no hype beast stuff. I know there was big channels out there already doing it way before, but for me, it was all like either Air Max, Air Forces, and literally every shoe I wanted to buy, whether it was on sale, and it weren't like the newest shoe at the time. It was just shoes that I enjoy. I'll just get on the channel and review, but obviously you have to sort of change up the methods, what shoes you get into, just review, not to keep in the collection, stuff like that. And yeah, it was all about Dunks and then Jordan 1s, and then obviously it's like 4s and everything else right now, and then Asics and New Balance at the minute. So it's always evolving, you know, content, the sneaker culture, what people are into. That's why I've always sort of kept my channel niche, because people say pick a niche with content creation, but I sort of picked a niche within a niche. So yes, it's sneakers, but majority of my content is mostly like Air Max, which most people don't really do. I know there's the odd like stash Air Max 95s people touch on and stuff like that, but majority of the time I've got like general release sneakers on the, you know, channel and the collection and stuff like that. So that's where I sort of pride myself on. I know it's not the biggest YouTube channel, but yeah, for a lot of people, it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. You know, you don't see those sneakers often. Yeah,
I think that, I don't know how it is. Like, I know the kind of Air Max culture in the UK, which we can touch on a little bit more if you like. The Air Max culture, especially like TNs in Australia, is kind of associated a little bit with like gang criminal culture a little bit. So I think that I didn't initially get into Air Maxes because of that stigma around the TNs and kind of the Vapor Maxes and such, because they were kind of worn by people who you'd probably not wanting to hang out with as much. I know in the UK it has a bit of a deeper, richer history that doesn't quite reach that level of notoriety, let's just say that. But I think that going into a niche is obviously, if you find the right niche, it's always going to give you profit if you are good at it. And obviously you're very good at it. You've got over, you know, nearly 45,000 subscribers on YouTube, you know, pumping out content all the time, Instagram as well. So I think that you've done very well with your niche. And I think that, like you said, keeping it fresh with New Balance and Asics, getting into those sort of things, not necessarily following a trend, but just kind of vibing what's in the contemporary sneaker market is always a good way to go as well. But then you can always fall back on your niche, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think as sneaker trends and the culture sort of evolves and changes, so do our tastes and likes, you know, because as we get older and wider, you know, we want more comfortable shoes, and obviously Asics, New Balance, you know, Hoka, those sort of brands are sort of leading the pack, you know, and I'm very into like the Asics right now, the Erkin No.14. So I wouldn't have thought of saying that 2-3 years ago, you know, but here we are, man. It's always evolving.
Yeah. The Erkin No.14 is definitely, I mean, the whole Erkin range, to be honest. I've got a couple of 20s. I want to get like some of the Asics Gel Nimbus. Like I have like a ton of Asics. They've been the brand that I've probably bought the most, besides New Balance, brand that I've bought the most pairs of shoes in the last 6 months, I think, Asics. They're just so comfortable, and now they're like super trendy as well, like as in with fashion as well. I see a lot of people basically whenever you go to a mall, I don't know what it's like in where you are in Manchester, but whenever I go to a mall, all I see is New Balance 530s and Asics 1130s. That's all I see.
Nice. Yeah.
Or beat dirty Air Force Ones.
Yeah. You know, it's a bit of a mixture. Well, in Manchester anyway, it's sort of like Adidas Samba, Gazelles, that sort of thing. But then you got the hoodlums that are wearing Air Max DN, TNs, 95s, stuff like that. But there are a lot more people into the Asics New Balance, especially those sort of mesh runners. It doesn't matter the brand. It's sort of those silver metallic mesh runners, you know, P6000s, even the Nike ones, the Vomero 5s, you know. I think it's since COVID, especially as well, slowly people are going into like more comfy vibes. You know, it's not all about just fashion. It has to be comfort and then we can think about if it looks good as well.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, for sure. I definitely wanted to also ask you where your name came from, because Broski is something that I have never heard in Australia. I've never heard anyone say that. I don't know if that's a common expression over there in the UK, but where exactly did that name come from, and why did you choose it to be your moniker, so to speak?
Yeah, well, it's a weird one. I think only one other person's asked me, but it's basically, I don't know if you're into wrestling. I was many moons ago, but there was a character or wrestler called Zack Ryder, and he used to wear like all the spandex, like, and he had a saying called "woo woo woo," you know it, broski. And then I don't know, I was always saying it, like it was a weird one. I used to be saying broski, and the other word I don't want to say because it's censored, but like it just stuck. And then Kanye, of all people, brought out the album The Life of Pablo. So that was an album, wasn't his best work, but it was an album that was vibing at the time. And I used to have the name Broski Fitness as well. So Broski was always a thing for me. We just call each other bro or broski, stuff like that. So yeah, it was Broski Fitness, sorry. Then as the rebrand happened, I was getting into lifestyle vlogs as well with the sneakers. So I thought, let me not niche down in terms of calling it just sneakers. So I just named it The Life of a Broski. And then, yeah, sometimes you get vlogs, but most of the time it is just sneakers, to be fair. But yeah, that's where the Broski brand comes from.
And you also have Broski Tech as well. You're big into tech. I know you have a fair amount of content on the internet. I'll actually also link your second channel and your main channel and Instagram down in the description. So if anyone wants to see any of your content, you can jump down there and check that out. But I think I chatted to you like not long ago about getting a new phone, and I actually did get the phone that I was talking about, the S24 FE, which was, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I went so long with my other phone. I had to turn it back on, and I was like, wow. You know, when you do that, like you turn on an old piece of tech and you're like, how on earth did I ever deal with this? It feels like it's ancient, you know, when you upgrade to something new. It was like a Galaxy A71. So it was around that, 5-6 years ago when they had the kind of second tier behind the Galaxy range. And I was just like, man, how I could never go back to that. So I think, 5 years, that's enough to wait for a new phone. I think that's good enough. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, some people are buying new phones, you know, every year these days, especially with iPhones coming out and little tiny changes. But you know, what are you rocking with right now?
Well, I was rocking the S24 Ultra, but for some odd reason, Samsung just swayed me. They gave me like a really good deal to upgrade for like, I think £300. I got the S25 Ultra, but it was more for content. So obviously on my tech channel, which we're sort of rebranding, calling it the Tech Waffler. So yeah, it's still a work in progress, but yeah, I just want to do a lot of content on the comparisons and S25 Ultra itself. But yeah, I've always sort of been into Android, like the iPhone once upon a time, the 5S I think I had, but they're very limited, you know, you can't really, well, now I guess you can, but customization has always been a thing for me. So yeah, Android all the way.
Nice. But we're here to chat about sneakers. I divulged a bit with tech. I mean, we could talk about a few different avenues. You're also an Arsenal fan. I am a very casual Chelsea fan. Was a few years ago. I don't know. I'm into a lot of more American sports now, and obviously Australian sport. And because of the time difference, the UK football scene has become less and less of a priority because it happens at midnight to 4 a.m. our time. It's kind of ridiculous. So can't really do with that anymore. But we are going to chat about some of also your favorite pairs. Like I know you've been collecting for a while. I was wanting to ask you what some of your favorite pairs are that you wanted to maybe show us today.
Yeah, there's two that sort of stand out, but one is sort of like a cult classic. We've got the Air Max 95 Freddy Krueger's.
Wow.
I recently picked these up last year. I think they dropped in 2020, but it was kind of a shoe that was always on the radar. But as a lot of sneakers come out, it sort of takes a back seat. And I finally pulled the trigger. I got them for retail off obviously a resale platform, but I just thought I had to get them, you know. I know they're mainly a Halloween sneaker, but the details on this shoe, like the stitch in there, you know, and a nod to a man or a thing that gave me so many nightmares as a kid. So yeah, bit of nostalgia and a bit of PTSD in there in an Air Max sneaker.
Yep.
And another one that stands out. I could be there for days in my collection, to be fair, but the
Yep.
Pimentos, or the Sunset, or Tigers, I guess, whatever you want to call these, the Nike
Yep.
TN. What do you guys call it? Air Max Plus or TN?
TN.
TN. Okay, yeah. Because recently
just call them.
It's Air Max Plus to, like, I guess, the American side of things, but in the UK it was always TN. So
Yeah, we just call them TNs. Yeah.
So
Nice.
I love these, especially summertime. I think I get the most questions or comments on this shoe because they're so loud, and I rock them to the gym and wherever else,
Very nice. It sometimes happens like that, doesn't it? Where you're wearing a pair of shoes and you're like, this is really nothing that special. Like, this isn't a hyped up collab. This isn't something crazy. And people just always tend to gravitate towards those shoes because, when you're out of this, like, the sneaker bubble, people don't care about, oh, this is the Nigel Sylvester collab. No one cares, like, in the real world. They're just like, oh, that shoe is incredibly bright and loud. Like, that's cool. That sort of thing. But no, I definitely love those pairs like that. Freddy Krueger 95, man. I need to get more 95s. I have a couple. And as I kind of said earlier, I've not been into as much Air Max over the last couple years, but I'm getting more into it now. And I'm excited to kind of use you as maybe a sounding board to try and see which ones. I'm definitely interested in getting the OG neons that are coming out later on this year. But we are going to get into our top 5 and also our honorable mentions. But first of all, I did want to chat about a sponsor for this video. This is the first time we've had a sponsor on the podcast. So huge thank you to Sneaked In. They are a Australian based in Melbourne, actually. They're a lace handle solution. And they are basically, whenever I wear high top shoes, I don't really like them with low tops, just to be honest. But with high tops, especially Jordan 1s, Jordan 3s, 4s and such, I will lace these ones in. And I've actually posted a couple of photos on my Instagram. I'll pop a couple up now, doing a little bit more content. So we're going to be posting a few more things with Sneaked In. I know you've got a little bit of a partnership going with them as well. But they are actually, I kind of, when I first initially got that, I don't know if you put them in, but I thought they were going to be a little bit more obtrusive than I thought. But they're actually incredibly light and flexible, and I actually really enjoy the way that they make threes look. Ones, I need to find the right way of hooking them in, because they do have these little hooks on the side. I need to find the right way. I need to finesse it a bit more. But I found with Jordan 3s, which I love, they fit in really, really nicely. So yeah, if you want to get some of the Sneaked In products, they'll put a link down below. So shout out to them. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of the Best Foot Forward Shoes podcast. We're going to get into our honorable mentions. So my first honorable mention, as you can see on the screen right here, is the Air Max 97 Silver Bullet. Now, this is kind of one of the shoes that I think of when I think of the Air Max 97. I initially kind of think of this one and maybe the gold pair as well. That's kind of where my head usually goes when I initially think of these ones. Didn't quite make the top 5, but I think that this is definitely worth putting in. Just wanted to chat about it a little bit. I know you also have this in your honorable mention, so I'll hold off for your comments about this one until we get to yours. But your honorable mention, which I found very interesting because I didn't really know a huge amount of about these ones, which was the Warhawk Air Max 90. What's the inspiration for this being one of your favorite pairs?
Yeah, it's kind of, again, sort of a cult classic. Like, it's not, well, I guess it's sort of regarded as top tier Air Max, well, Air Max 90s anyway. But it's sort of inspired by the Spitfires, the old warplanes, hence the name Warhawk. But it's kind of one of them shoes we've been waiting for a retro, and there have been teases from Nike. I think even last year with the terms open in the vault, we had the reverse dark camos feature back, obviously Air Max 180s or Air 180s. But this needs a retro. It's so cool. It's kind of, again, like a head turner. You got the shark teeth on the sides, you got the orange, the green, and very similar to the Bacons, which we may touch on in a little bit. We may, but it's that premium leather. The panels are so, like, you're just breaking necks basically, and I love orange on a shoe, and it just, it's everything a 90 should be: quality and head turning.
Me too. I do love orange on a shoe as well, especially when it's a nice hit, especially pairing it with that green and that brown. That looks so cool. And I like the nod to the Spitfires, the Battle of Britain and everything that happened in World War II, which we could go into, but yeah, I just think that the tribute that they've put on this shoe is pretty cool. I'm not sure, like, do you know the kind of history about who designed it actually? Was it was it a British designer?
I'm not actually sure, I'll be honest. I
Okay.
think these sort of came out a bit before my time when I was collecting. It's just when you see certain shoes that came out even before maybe you were born or whatever, it's like they stick, and this was definitely one of them.
Well, if anyone does know the kind of history, let us know in the comments as well, and tell us how stupid we are for not knowing. But another one of your honorable mentions was the Gundam pair, which, man, I'll be honest, as a ignorant kind of, as I said, Air Max kind of person, I have never seen this shoe. So I'm going to rely on you pretty heavily on this one and give me a bit of a rundown as why this is also in your honorable mentions.
Yeah, it's obviously based off, it's not an official collab or, you know, anything to do with the franchise, but Gundam, you know, the anime series, the colors are based off that basically. And yeah, it's again, one of the classics to the Air Max family. I feel like there's a lot of colorways that do stand out and last the test of time, but it's not a shoe I feel like many people gravitate to, because it's got the 97 sort of sole or midsole, very uncomfortable. Like, I love the 97s to death, forgive me, but they are uncomfortable, you know. And I think the 98s do get lost in the sauce because the 97s have always sort of lasted longer, you know. But yeah, the 98, the Gundam colorway, out of the 98s, I think that's the one in terms of colors that do stick, definitely for me.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot. I love the red on the sole there with the Air Max, the visible Air Max unit. The red really pops very nicely compared to the obviously white and blue on the upper as well. And the little red tick, I mean, the color blocking in it is very, very nice for sure. The other one that is also in your honorable mention was the aforementioned Silver Bullet, Air Max 97. Again, a nice, clean, head-turning colorway that people are kind of, I just think about Air Max 97s and I think of this pair. So why is it kind of one of your top pairs?
It's just memorable, you know. I think again, the 97s, we've had so many cool colorways, like you mentioned, the gold bullets, the Ronaldo collaboration once upon a time, obviously the Sean Wotherspoon sort of mashup. But when you think of 97s, this is kind of the only one that stands out mostly, you know. And again, being inspired by, you know, the trains and the waterfalls on the windows and stuff like that, the bullet trains rather. So yeah, it's definitely an Air Max. It's a part of Air Max history, I'm going to say it like that, because without this shoe, who knows where the 97s would be anyway, you know. So yeah,
that's very true. So I think we're going to jump straight into your number one was our first one. So this was the Atmos Elephant Air Max 1. I mean, when you think about Air Max 1, obviously you think of the University Red and the Big Bubble and stuff. But man, this one, I know a couple of friends who have this pair, and man, they cannot stop talking about it when it comes to Air Max. Like, why is this in your top 5?
Yeah, this would have been higher, but I mean, I feel like even though this is an amazing shoe, probably like, well, one of the best for me, because OG colorways, I feel like have more nostalgia attached to it and stuff. But yeah, this colorway, along with the Safari from Atmos, it's always been one of those shoes, you know, where you check on eBay or these sort of platforms and like, oh, let me just check the prices. If I can get a good deal or like a secondhand pair that's slightly worn or something. But yeah, shoes like this, bro, it's just, yeah, you're going to be eating beans on toast for a month, you know, if you reach back for a shoe like this. And I think it's always a shoe you have to sort of like admire as an art piece. And there's a lot of shoes out there that do have that same regard, but this shoe, man, as an Air Max 1, it's just timeless, you know, the Tiffany blue, obviously the elephant print, stuff like that. It's just amazing.
I have heard a few people talk about that sensation of kind of seeing a shoe from afar and enjoying it, even though you don't have it. I think there's definitely something to be learned about that. And I think that it kind of talks to, I suppose, the overconsumption of sneakers and products where you kind of, to feel like you have a connection with it, you have to have it. I suppose that this is definitely for me one of those shoes that I would probably never own and never wear, but I can definitely appreciate it being almost like an art piece. Like for me, another one that fits in that category is probably the Galaxy Foams. Like I've tried foam posits. I've even gone like a size up, and I just don't like. I don't know. I just don't like the fit. Like it's just the way my foot fits. I just can't fit like rock with Galaxy or just the foam posits in general. Don't really like the fits. But that, but again, it's one of those shoes that you can look at and almost put on your wall and just be like, yeah, that's a piece of art. And this shoe, I think, definitely fits in that category. So that is your number 5. My number 5 is the Air Max Bacon, which I actually do have. If we can see it there. So the Air Max 90. I just noticed I've got a big scuff on the side of it.
Oh, they're terrible. Mine's the same.
But hey, that shows that we're wearing them. You know, I'm always a big exponent for wearing your shoes. So there's definitely a little bit of wear that's gone into these. They are an incredibly nice colorway. Like obviously the bacon moniker is obviously because it's got the brown and the red and the pink kind of giving it that. I'm not sure if that's the official, was that the official model name that they gave it, or it's just a nickname that people have given it?
So the inspiration was from Dave Ortiz, Dave Quality Meats. He had like a butcher shop, the boutique. So that was his whole story. Like he had a deadline with Nike to do a collaboration, couldn't think of anything. And then he just thought, oh, why don't I put something that looks like bacon, like a strip of bacon? So if you put the two shoes together, it's got the pink with the trimmings and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of cool, man. So cool.
This is why I brought you onto the show, because you have all the knowledge. I think as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. But I've definitely put that as my number 5, and I did buy them not too long ago. Like obviously I didn't get them when they released. I wasn't into sneakers around that time, but man, they're actually going for a very decent price. If anyone wants to pick these up, like they're really not that expensive on resale website. I think I got them for like $270 Australian, which is roughly like 130 pounds in the UK. So I think that there's definitely pairs going around there. So if you want to pick one of those up, you definitely can. Your number 4 sneaker was this one, which you already kind of showed, but I wanted you to talk a little bit more about it, was the sunset or pimento color of the Air Max Plus there. So this is definitely, I mean, I love the way the colors of this mesh, and I love the way that the gradient happens. Give us a bit more of a rundown as to why this is your number 4.
It's timeless. Again, I know, like obviously it's got that stigma attached to it with the gang affiliation. Is it Esches? I think Esches
is what they're called. This is definitely an Esche shoe, just not gonna lie.
So when I first started reviewing TNs, because I didn't see any TN content on YouTube when I was first starting off, so I used to get all the comments from Australians and everyone else saying, oh, this is an Esche shoe, this is that. I was like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. I just like the shoe. But obviously in the UK, growing up, my cousin used to have TNs like notoriously, these loud colorways as well, like the Voltage Purple, Hyper Blues. I should have put, like, that would have been in honorable mentions list, to be fair. But yeah, has a bit of a stigma to it. But at the same time, I've seen so many like formal people wearing them. Like you could be just, you're just loving the shoe because it's loud as well. And like I said, people who aren't into sneakers are always asking me about these shoes. Like when I was at work, worked for Royal Mail, like a delivery service, but sometimes I'd wear a cheeky Air Max like this and they'd be like, oh, where'd you get those from? Like, and yeah, it's just a loud shoe. And for me, I've always been a big advocate of let your shoes do the talking, which I even put on my Instagram caption with this shoe actually a few days ago. But yeah, it's timeless, it's loud, and it's probably my favorite TN of all time. Hyper Blues are a shout, but the latest retro didn't really do it for me.
Fair enough. I think my initial, of course, is something that I would see on like someone who would probably try and beat me up at the train station. That's probably what I would initially think about when I see this shoe before I was into sneakers. And now I can see it for what the kind of, piece of Nike history, let's just be honest, that it actually is. I also wanted to ask your opinion as well on the Air Max Plus Drift, the kind of latest iteration of kind of an updated model on that sneaker. What was your thoughts on that one? It kind of first debuted last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I remember getting them in pretty early actually, because it was kind of, oh, what have they done to our baby, you know? But
Hmm.
it was like a double-edged sword, because we always ask for innovation, especially like with Air Max sneakers and Nike in general, you know, because they're not the best at innovation. But when they do give it to us, we're kind of like sneaker Karens, you know, we're very snobbish. We're like, oh, what have they done to our Air Max? Like, this shouldn't be happening. Frankenstein shoe. But there was parts of it I did like. There was parts of it I didn't like. I liked how it felt, but
Mhm.
just the look of them, I didn't like for majority of the colorways. Like, it was like a rubber material, stuff like that. And it just felt off, you know, it felt like it shouldn't have been done to this model. And I think they did it to the 90, the Air Max 90, and that was way better. Like the implementation of the panels, you know, ripstop material, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know, bro. Did you get a pair, or how did you feel about
I've
those?
got I got two pairs, and I remember when the first one came out, it was like a
Mm,
cacao named colorway. I can't remember the full name, but it was something like that. And they sold out like instantly. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? I didn't think
mm,
this was going to be like this. And then I now see all these different colorways going on sale. So I guess that speaks to the waiting sometimes is better. And now I could probably have
yeah.
gotten those shoes for on sale. But yeah, I got a couple pairs. I like how they are weather resistant. I've worn them a fair few times in when I know it's going to be wet.
Mm.
That's kind of a plus of them. But then also they do dig into your heel and also your front foot just a little bit. They do run a little bit
Ah,
small as well. So I haven't worn them a lot. Let's just say I've got a couple pairs, but I haven't worn them a ton, just because of that comfort level isn't quite there. But they do look
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Like that,
yeah.
it's one of those ones that people will look and be like, oh, that they look sick. Like, you know, that sort of thing. Like you said with this shoe, like people, you wear it to the gym, and people are like, oh, what's this shoe? Like, tell me more about it. And you're perfectly happy to, because you've got all this info. Like
Mm.
you're you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Air Max shoes. And this was your number 4 shoe. So we're going to move on to my number 4 shoe, which is the Air Max 1 University Red. And like I said about the 97s, when I think about Air Max 1s, this is the colorway that first comes to mind. I mean, I probably should have had this higher now that I'm thinking about it, just for the respect of the history. I probably should have put this a little bit higher. But I mean, when I think of, you know, early Nike, when I think of that retro 80s aesthetic, I think of this shoe. The comfort still holds up, although, of course, Air Max 1s have kind of, what Nike has progressed with their comfort level, with like their Zoom foam and such. But I mean, these are still, for their time, these would have been an absolute revolutionary piece of technology when it comes to comfort. Like the Air Max 1 is just incredible. So what do you think about this being at my number 4 spot?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not mad, because even though it's like the OG, the original Visible Air and Air Max sneaker and stuff,
Mhm.
it's kind of like, they're like, even the shoe itself, yes, it gets retros, the 86 cut, even the low polys that we've had recently, but the retro of this shoe hasn't been around for a while. So yeah, I think it sits about right. I would have put it higher as well, but the shoes that I have put on my list a little bit higher, it's kind of like, I'm not mad at myself either. But not even having this on the list for me is blasphemy. But yeah, it's a great shoe, man. It's the OG, the Godfather of it all, and white reds for the
Yeah.
summer. You know, it's no brainer, man.
What did you think of the dot swoosh pair that they released? The whole Nike digital product, you know, pixelated kind of logo.
Yeah,
What did you think about that one?
yeah. I actually pre-ordered them actually, so I've got them.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're nice. They're, all the little hits, you know, the 8-bit era of gaming and stuff, so sick. And I've actually got
Hmm.
the guy that helped design it as well. All the dot swoosh, like he works for dot swoosh, so I've actually got him on Instagram. We follow each other, and
Hmm.
yeah, he's even sharing now the Donkey Kong pair that's
Hmm.
coming out very soon.
Yeah.
It's a cool concept. Like they had the Tomb Raider version 2, the adventure pair. It's very cool, obviously, for kids grew up in the 80s, 90s, I suppose. Growing up on the N64, these sort of like nods are very cool. But I will say they're not as comfortable as the regular pair that has normal mesh, because the mesh is a lot harder. So you might have to just
Mm.
break them in. From my
Okay.
experience anyway.
Why do you think they put a different sort of material on that one?
I think because they had to get like the pixelated fade in it. So the whole
Okay.
shoe even like the gray hits on this shoe, like the whole shoe is covered in the pixelated sort of blend, even on the white mesh as well. The red is just normal red. It has the sort of polygonal look to it. But yeah, I think to achieve that, they had to add like sort of like harder mesh. It's like a textile mesh. It's way harder.
Okay. No, fair enough. I haven't seen it in person, and I didn't pre-order them, but no, I can appreciate what they've kind of done with that, and I'm happy that they're pushing forward with it. As you said, with the like Tomb Raider version, the Donkey Kong version, they're trying to keep pushing on with it, and it'd actually be pretty cool to see them do it with different models as well. I'd like to see that as well. So that's my number 4 pair. What was your number 3 pair? This is the one we already kind of spoke about. Why did this jump up from where I had it to where you have it?
I just think out of my collection, like if I was to reach for a shoe that does enough to turn heads, but at the same time keeps it like classic or classy rather, and just has that premium quality. I know there was a lot of pairs like on release where they had like pen marks on them and stuff like that. My pair, because I got them on the resale market as well, just like a year later after release, had like pen marks and all these things on there, but you wipe them off and they're good to go. But overall, the history behind it, obviously retroing, what was it, 20 years ago at that point, and then it's like, yeah, it's just an amazing shoe, man. I think even Dave Ortiz shared my picture the other day that I put up on my story of me wearing them. So that was like a bucket list moment. But yeah, the story behind the butcher shop, the boutique, you know, looking like a sneaker boutique and stuff like that. I think this came out 2004, I want to say. So yeah, it's a monumental shoe. It's so good.
Yeah, it's the colors, the pink hits, the red, like the brown. I'm a huge fan of brown on sneakers. I think that there should be more brown sneakers. So anything that kind of has that brown element to it, as well as, you know, the quality of the leather and the suede. Like I'll just show them to the people. Like suede's, the gray suede's so nice. The Air Max logo, the Nike Air on the back with the, I mean, pink and brown always just looks nice together. So that's a winning color combo. This is definitely. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have put this one higher too. You're making me second guess my list. But now we're up to my number 3 shoe, which is the Air Max 95 Mr. Stash collaboration. So famous New York graffiti artist. He released this shoe. Was it around 20 years ago? This shoe, and he basically was one of the first major collaborators on this colorway. And the original, as you can see right here, they did release a re-release late last year that does have some similarities, but also has a little bit of different materials. And I did actually pick this one up, and funnily enough, it's still available for sale, like on his website, like, you know, on the blueisback.nyc, his website. They're actually still available. So I would definitely recommend with this 95, especially with the extra padded and thick leather, go up half a size. I legitimately got a ingrown toenail because I wore this shoe for a whole day when I first got them. Instead of trying to break them in for a couple hours, I wore them. I committed to a whole day wearing them, and I ended up getting an ingrown toenail, which is not fun. So definitely, if you're going to get one of those Air Max 95s that have basically a whole leather upper, try and break them in for a couple of hours and then give it a rest, because it's going to be pretty hard. But anyway, this colorway is kind of the reason why I put it on. I just love the blue. I love the gradient. It looks so nice. Like, I kind of put both of them together just because they kind of, I feel like, deserve to go together. They both have a piece of Mr. Stash's history, kind of a bookend to where he's been and where he is now. The original kind of, obviously it has some lighter tones of gray there, and then the newer one has the little bit more navy blue, and then they've got the ripstop material around where the lace holes are. So no, these are definitely one of my favorites, and I love that it's at my number 3 spot. Did you pick up a pair of these ones?
I did, yeah, and I did the same thing you did, bro. I went true to size, wore them for a full day, and my pinky toes haven't recovered still, and it's been like 2 months. So gutted, but at the same time, I think I'm too stubborn to just sell them and get a half size up. So we just got to ride it out, you know. Wear thin socks, I think would be good.
I have worn them a couple more times, and I have worn them a couple more times, and I have felt them getting a little bit more roomy. So there is hope.
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
there is hope that they do eventually go a little bit more roomy. But yeah, thin socks, which, I mean, for you guys over there, would you say the MX95 is more of a summer shoe for you, or are they a winter shoe?
Ooh, I think it's all round, you know, because you got like
Yeah.
lighter colorways. For example, hyper turquoise, which is mainly lighter grays, and then a hit of obviously turquoise. But then you see people wearing all winter too, like the essential pairs, which are like mostly leather. But yeah, I'd say all year, to be fair.
Well, there's a friend on Instagram. I don't know if he's your friend as well, Joe Hughes. I chatted to him about the Cortez pairs of the 95s, and he was like complaining as to why they're releasing that all black with yellow colorway just before summer. He's like, this is a winter color. Like, why are we releasing an all black sneaker just before summer? Anyway, he was raging about that a little bit. So the Cortez is probably one that I probably could have put on this list as well. I'll chuck that in my honorable mentions, because the actually all the colorways of the Cortez are very nice, especially the green one. That's probably my favorite out of all of them. But that was so my number 3. Your number 2 shoe is another 95. This is the OG neon colorway, which is actually re-releasing later on in 2025. I think in a couple months, actually. I don't know if there's been a date officially released, but why is this original Air Max 95 in your number 2 spot?
Yeah, I think just the weight it holds, you know, the OG of OGs. It would be, I think, like, I'll put it up there with Grail, probably top 2 Grails for me. And only because I didn't get them past releases. Even the 2020 release was an absolute mess. Apparently containers were lost at sea from Nike and had all these 95s in there. We're in March, and allegedly April is when they're coming. So fingers, toes, and everything crossed that no containers drop off the Titanic this time, you know. So let's see. But yeah, the shoe itself, it's just so wearable. Like, people who aren't into sneakers and Air Max love this shoe. And that says it all. You know, the OG green. I'm a sucker for like Volt and neon green hits as well, as much as orange. But yeah, it's just a classic, bro. Like, I can't say any more that hasn't already been said. And the fact that again, it's an OG colorway and lasted this long, people are still after them. You know, you got Kim K wearing the pink foams because of this shoe, and you know, all these things. It's like, yeah, it's a classic, bro. But what do you think? Are you a fan of these? Well, you are. You said it earlier.
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely going to be on my hit list for later on in the year. Like, I'm 100% going to try and get a pair of these when they release. Not sure of the release date. If anyone wants to let us know, you can type it down in the comments. But yeah, I love the kind of little hits. I'm a big fan of not only the gradient of the shoe going from, you know, dark to light, but also just any shoe that kind of has a bland sort of color scheme and then just pops with a bit of color is just chef's kiss. Like, love those shoes that have just a little tiny little bit of extra spice, you know. And I think the Volt Green is probably something I'm not like. I do like the Volt Green. I definitely like it in this amount. You know what I mean? Like, if it had any more than this, I wouldn't be a fan. But I think this is just the right amount of, you know, the grays and the black and the gradient with the white, and then the little hit of Volt color is just perfect. This is definitely worthy of your number 2. Like, I definitely respect putting this at number 2. My number 2 spot is the Air Max Patta. This is the Air Max 1 with a Dutch, I believe. Yeah, Dutch boutique sneaker fashion clothing store. Patta actually have them right here. This is not the original one. This is the re-release from last year. Yeah, I just love my main thing is the green. Like, it's the green is the thing that I love. It's like, it's not a green that you see often on a shoe, in my opinion. Like, it's one of those ones that you usually see like a forest green or a dark green, but this is like, obviously it's called the chlorophyll pair because the chlorophyll comes from kind of the naturistic feel that they give off. And they've got the gray hits as well. They've got the almost denim-like feel on the materials, which is something, again, you don't see very much on shoes, let alone Air Max 1s. You don't see a lot of that denim material, and you see that not only in the green, but also in the gray color as well on the back here. And then you kind of get a different kind of gray material around the actual around the actual Nike tick as well. So yeah, and obviously like the cool little insole as well. So yeah, I just love this pair. And as you can kind of see by how dirty that bottom is, definitely put some miles into it. And yeah, this is a hugely, I wore this a lot during summer. Let's just say that it's a good summer colorway. So if anyone over there in the UK or the USA is going to be thinking about summer fits, this is definitely not one to think about. What do you think about that being my number 2 pair?
I'm not mad, bro. I'm not mad. I think it would have made my list if I didn't know your list as well, because I didn't want it to be too similar. So
Yeah.
I recently picked them up. Actually, did you pick them up for retail, or how did that go for you?
It was a little bit over, just a little bit over.
Okay.
So my wife watches this podcast sometimes, and I'm going to tell her the exact amount
It was
that I
retail.
paid
It was
for
retail.
some shoes. Yeah, no, babe, it was retail. So yeah,
they were gifted. They were actually gifted to me.
they're actually free. I mean, yes,
Sponsored.
sponsored by Pata. Which would be a dream actually. But yeah, this was.
Honestly,
what did you think about getting these in hand?
Yeah, they were beautiful, man. They were. I think I paid like a couple quid under retail like recently, which I weren't too mad at. But the problem I had was basically, so I got on release, I got an exclusive access email, like an early access email. Didn't think anything of it, thought it was just an email to say, oh, these are coming out in a couple hours, because it was on the same day. So I totally missed the early access email. And then I've told this story so many times, I sound like a little like a therapy session. But yeah, so release came around, tried to go for them, then I tried adding the socks and everything else, and then they were sold out. So I went on my live stream. I probably vented for like 2 whole weeks to my obviously channel and stuff like that. Anyway, long story short, didn't realize the early access email until like 2 months later. And, you know, you're just scrolling through your email, cleaning it up, and I was like, no way. And then, yeah, I refused to pay resale up until recently, man. And like you said, summertime shoe, the history behind it, 20 years, you know, 2004. Then they retroed again, I believe in 2009 for their 5th anniversary. But Pata is probably my favorite streetwear brand, like out of all of them. Like, I love it. I've got so many parts of the clothing, pieces of clothing. I've got a few Air Max 1s from the recent drops, you know, the wave pack, stuff like that.
Yeah, the waves, yep. I definitely could have put the waves on here as well. That's one thing that I mean, I wanted to keep it tight with the 5 and a couple honorable mentions, but there's so many that you could have put in, and those waves pairs.
The Monarchs.
You could have put all of them in there. And what was your favorite color of those waves? For me, I think it's the orange.
Yeah, the Monarchs. I think that's the first one I got. Well, the first one that dropped. That's the only one I got for retail. But then I picked up the Rush Maroon, which is like the purple one, dark purple, and then the brown colorway. But I picked them up for like under retail because they dropped so low. So I weren't mad. But yeah, all of them. I think the orange one does stand out to me though.
Yeah, nice. It's Pata and Air Max. Obviously, they released this because it was the 20th year of the store being opened, and I think it was 15 years of the collaboration between Pata and Nike. So it kind of had a nice tie-in and a nice kind of story around it, which I really appreciate with sneakers. I don't know about you, but I really like, not in the same level, but I like when a sneaker has a story attached to it. It's not just like, here's a shoe. It's kind of, I think that's why we connect with collaborations, because we get a little bit of the story and the history around the person who's bringing us the shoe. You know what I mean? It's not just some massive corporation that's, you know, throwing a shoe at us and being like, here you go, dummies. So even though sometimes they do that, and we do buy them. So I guess we are dummies. But that was my number 2 shoe, and we'll move on to your number 1. Drum roll, please. The infrareds. This is, you know, this is the Air Max 90 of all Air Max 90s.
Yeah, my favorite shoe of all time, man. I know there's obviously more historic shoes like Jordan 1s. Without that shoe, there may not be sneaker culture and all these things. But yeah, the Air Max 90, man, I think growing up, seeing them so much and then getting the retro in 2020, it was like a full circle moment. You know, because we've had so many iterations to the 90 infrared. We've had like the sort of Flyknit versions. We've had all these Gore-Tex versions and stuff, but you just can't beat the OG, man. And the 90 infrared, I think, a bit controversial, but I think the 90 silhouette did just a bit more than Air Max 1 in terms of a bit more comfort, you know, the looks as well. I know there's going to be some OGs out there that are gunning for me right now, but that's just me, man. The 90s for me was kind of like one of the Air Max that started it all. Wasn't my first Air Max, that was a BW's, but this was the one you kind of fall in love with first, and you always remember that, you know. But Harrison, what about you, bro? Are you a fan of this shoe, or?
I mean, I only have 2 pairs of 90s, the bacon pair, which I showed before, and like a blue, like general release kind of pair that's really beat up. I'm even embarrassed to try and show them because of how dirty they are. But like, man, again, it kind of speaks a little bit more to what I said about the neon 95s. That little tiny, I mean, there's a little bit more of a hit of that bright color on this shoe, but that toned down white, gray, black with a little hit, that just works so well. And I think they pulled this off. And as you said, this is what you kind of think about when you think of the Air Max 90. Like, this is, I don't know when the next like release of them is going to come our way, but when it does, I'm definitely going to be trying to get this one. Or maybe I'll try and go and find a pair, maybe slightly used or something like that. But yeah, I can definitely respect this being your number one. Like, as you said, it kind of, I suppose, started. Did you say that it started your like love for sneakers, or it was one of your first pairs that kind of tweaked for you?
Yeah, it was one of the shoes that stood out when I was a kid. Again, it wasn't my first Air Max. Like, that was the BW. I remember in school just not knowing what they were, but just knowing that they were super cool. But this colorway was always like on my brother and sister's feet and people around me's feet. And I was like, oh my God, they are so cool because they're so bright and colorful. But weirdly enough, they're so wearable. Like, you don't really get that blend, you know, of being super loud to an extent, but still wearable, you know?
Yeah, for sure. If anyone has been watching this on YouTube, you will have seen all of the pictures that I've put up of these shoes. And I would definitely encourage anyone who is listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you want to go and check out all of these pictures and kind of following along with what we've been talking about, I would really recommend heading over to the YouTube channel. And of course, if you look in the description of the podcast, you'll be able to see all of Erkin's, either his tech channel, his YouTube channel, his Instagram, everything like that. You'll be able to check out his content. But quickly, we are going to move on to my number one to round out a little bit of this discussion. And that is none other than the Air Max 1-97 from Sean Wotherspoon. So if you didn't know a little bit of the history around this shoe, there was a competition with Nike to design a sneaker, and Sean Wotherspoon was a relatively unknown designer. I think he basically just had an interest in like vintage stores. He eventually ran a consignment store, but he won the competition and designed, like, that was designing the shoe, and he basically created a icon with this shoe. And man, it's a mashup of the 1, it's a mashup of the 97. It's got corduroy panels. I'm going to flex a little bit with it right there. And the corduroy, man, it's a little bit faded, like, as in, I think with some of the images that you see, like this image that you might see in person, that's a little bit more faded. This image is a little bit more saturated, I think. Obviously, post-processing kind of shows a little bit of a different story. To me, it looks a bit faded than some of the photos that I see online, especially when they increase the saturation. But man, like the little tongue bit as well that pops off, the little wave, like, I don't know, I just love that sort of stuff. Like, the little tiny hits you get on it, like all the different lace options you get as well. The corduroy, and as you can see, I've actually worn them a fair amount. So even if I wanted to try and resell these, probably wouldn't get as much as if I had left them dead stock. But hey, wear your sneakers. And these are definitely one of the pairs that, like, if I'm wearing them, people will ask about them for sure. It's kind of like your sunset pair. Everyone kind of asks about them and kind of notices them, but in a good way. You know, it's not like it's not like a crazy, like, what the heck is that? It's more of a, wow, there you go. And if you saw someone wearing this shoe out in public, I'm sure that you would stop them and want to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
Just you yourself.
You know what? I've done that a few times. I've had to be like, bro, I've had to stop him and be like, I've had to clap in front of them. I'm like, they're amazing. And they're like, thanks, bro. Thank you. But it's one of them shoes. It's like, again, personally, it's probably top 3 grails for me, probably top of the list, because I kind of just missed the boat in terms of collecting. And then obviously after you get into it, like you see the prices and you're like, oh, do you know what? It's a tough one, but I might have to sit this one out. Hopefully wait for the alleged 2.0s. You never know if they're coming, because he's put that out there. So yeah, it's a shoe I've seen in hand multiple times at conventions like Kicks and Coffee the other day. I think Joe was there as well. Funny, quick sidebar. I didn't realize Joe was there until after I saw content. I was like, bro, I didn't even realize. I was like, damn it. But yeah, shout out to Joe, man. That was a good pod. Saw a signed pair at the convention, which was cool. But yeah, they're going for silly money for me anyway, man. They may be worth it in years to come.
You just said a signed pair. Funnily enough, that tweaked for me in a recent trip that I took to the Philippines. I saw a Sean Wotherspoon Adidas shoe that was signed at a vintage store. It was like the I'll put a photo up in post, but it was like the Adidas Mock Turf or something. Like I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was like, it's a really vibrant yellow, orange, rainbow shoe. And I picked them up and was like, man, these are dirty, these are beat. And then I turned around, okay, that's why they're so expensive, because they're signed. Like that sort of thing. I'm sure that
apparently he only signed worn pairs.
Right.
So when I was talking to the guys at the table who were selling it, they were like, oh bro, are they wore? He's like, look, he only signed worn pairs because of resale. He didn't want people to take advantage of it and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, he kind of, that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people were happy that he won that competition, is because he kind of has that people perspective and kind of is one of the people and is kind of in his post fame. I mean, he's still famous, but like post that peak, he has, designed a lot more shoes, and he's continued to work on his craft. He's not just kind of rested on his laurels and been like, I'm just going to do Nike shoes from now on. Like he's tried to live out his passions with different brands, and I can really appreciate that. And I actually have another pair of his shoes, the Adidas Gazelle that he did, the hemp pair, the green pair. Those are those are one of my favorites as well. It's kind of got that corduroy, different kind of material feel. So I can definitely not only appreciate the color and the comfort of this shoe, but I also appreciate the artist as well. And like I said, the storytelling is something that I really buy into with a shoe, and the person that's bringing you the shoe is definitely big for me. So that's why this is my number one shoe. So, man, there you go. That is a very, very nice top. Let's call it a top 10 with some honorable mentions, man. Like that is pretty good. And I feel like that's a nice celebration of what is a great month, which is March. February, I feel like, was a big month in sneakers, especially this year. It always kind of is a big one, but this year felt pretty big. And now, obviously, Air Max month. There is a shoe usually every year from Nike that comes out around this time. And this year we have the DN8. Now, this has been going around for a while, and they've basically released every single colorway under the sun that you can think of. What are your thoughts, first of all, about the original DN and then this new kind of DN8 model that's been updated?
It's tough, man, because again, as I said earlier, we want innovation. We're pushing for it. Oh, we want innovative sneakers that we can call grails down the line. But when it comes around, it's like, oh, not like this, But the original DN was cool. Like I like the rollout. I think my last sneakers win was the DN. The all day colorway was like that blended sort of purple. It was cool. Like it was very comfortable, decent looking, in certain colorways. But everyone's argument was there was no collabs or real collabs other than the Supreme. And there weren't real colorways that we resonated with. There was only like a select couple. And then all of a sudden they're on sale. So that sort of fizzled out. And then the DN8 comes along, which just added more chambers or air units. Looks like spider eyes, in certain colorways. And then it's like the colorway they led with, which was like a Pink Panther, hyper pink, whatever it was. Yeah. It just didn't make sense, bro. Like I had them on the channel as well. Like I didn't know what to say because I didn't want to trash the shoe because they are surprisingly comfortable. But the colorway they led with, whether it was to get people talking or just to rage bait, rage click, whatever it's called, like get people just promoting the shoe, just by talking and bashing it. And then they did bring out some cool colorways. I think they've got like a sort of OG neon 95 inspired one. They've got like a blue turquoise color and some wearable, way more wearable colors. Let's put it that way. It's just, I think the damage has sort of been done with the pink pair. And for the price, bro, I don't know about in Canada, in Australia, like the price is £175 over here. So are you going to be going for an Air Max 95 or the Air Max DN8? Because they're the same price at retail, you know?
It's 260 roughly, 260, 270, which is crazy because like a Jordan 4, like even like the latest release, that brick by brick Nigel Sylvester, that was 320 Australian.
Oof, okay,
so it's only $50 less. You're getting this general release, you know, updated technology shoe that Nike's calling it. Like, I don't know, it should be around the, I suppose, what do you think, like the 120 pounds kind of range? That's probably where it should be. Is that a bit too cheap, you reckon?
You know what, I wasn't mad at the original DN's pricing. I think that was about 145. I weren't mad at that because it's a new Air Max, but I think just adding a few more chambers, it's like £10 a chamber at that point. You know, it's ridiculous. But what my biggest thing was, the original DN, there wasn't much pushing it. Like there weren't better colorways. There weren't more collabs. Like if we saw more collabs, they probably could have pushed the DN8s another year or two because the DN would have had more traction. You know, that was my biggest gripe anyway.
Yeah, I think the DN definitely had some more work to do. Like, I think they could have pushed it a bit harder. For me, the DN, the only thing I didn't like, the comfort was great. The only thing I didn't like was that to get it to a nice tight fit for me, I had to really tighten it right at the top of the shoe, like right around the ankle collar, right up here. And because of how thin the top was, it really started to dig into my ankle. I don't know if that's just me. But to get them to a nice tight hug kind of feel, I thought about going half a size down, but then my foot, my toe would have been a little bit too squished. So that was my kind of issue with it. I only got one colorway, and I'm thinking about getting the DN8 purely kind of for a review. And I just want to try it out because it's a new silhouette. There are, as you said, a ton of colorways, and there are definitely more wearable ones coming out. So I'm definitely excited to see if they give us one that I'm kind of looking for would maybe be like a nice baby blue, dark blue kind of one. Maybe I'll have a look after this podcast and see if I can find one. But the DN8, that's definitely their flagship Air Max model that's just come out. It's definitely going to, I guess, resonate with the mass markets. Like Foot Locker in Australia has the monopoly on TN and DN products. So a lot of the time they will be the main retailer. If anyone in Australia wants to pick one of those up, you can go to Foot Locker. And yeah, I'm excited to, again, see that shoe, see how it goes. And like you said, it does look like it feels comfortable, but again, the colorways are just, you know,
they're not it. Yeah.
It's not it. Yeah. But we're going to have a little bit more of a chat about some of the upcoming, well, not upcoming, the ones that have just released and upcoming. We just saw the Brick by Brick, which is the Nigel Sylvester follow-up to his Jordan 4 RM. He's released a full Jordan 4, basically in a full burnt orange red colorway. I just wanted to get a little bit of your initial thoughts about this shoe.
I'm burning, bro. Like, I'm still sort of recovering from all the L's that I took, but I'm not mad because I think this year, well, this time of year, it's like there's so much good shoes coming out that even if you take L's over here, there's the next thing to look forward to. Like in a couple of days, at this point, 2 days at the time of recording this video, you've got allegedly the unions on sneakers in the UK, and then you got the SB Jordan 4, the navy pair. So
yeah,
again, by the time you're crying your eyes out, the next thing's on your radar. But yeah, this shoe did hurt, bro. I know obviously we spoke off camera, you weren't too mad because they're not the best in terms of wearable shoes, but I think at the same time that kind of goes in hand with it. Like, it's a loud shoe, maybe a lace swap changes it. I think the white laces look cool.
That's true.
And yeah, it was super hard, bro, like to get over here. I think there was only a couple raffles, and then the sneakers did like a weird it weren't like, wait 15 minutes, you get your answer, that kind of thing, a raffle. It was more first come, first serve, which was weird.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's a tough one to take, but resale prices, I've just had to block it out, bro. I'm like, nope, not even going there. So yeah. How about you? Because I know you weren't a fan.
Yeah, I think I'd just wait for them to go down, like the prices. I think that people will take their photos, they'll get their pics, they'll get some fit pics, and then they'll probably try and pass them on because, again, I don't think it's like a hugely wearable color. I think it's like if you're a huge Nigel Sylvester fan or like a fours fan, it's definitely one to have if you're like a collector of fours. But if you're just like a kind of sneaker content creator or someone who kind of wants the latest thing, I think it was definitely one of those shoes. But I think there will also be a people who in the next month or so be like, all right, I can pass this one on a little bit. So I just wait, and kind of like I have started to realize about shoes is that oftentimes if you just wait, there will be a deal that comes up, or like you said, there's another shoe just around the corner. Like my focus was for the upcoming Salehi Bembury 991 V2, which was 550 Australian dollars if I bought it from his American website. Okay. I know some people who did, but with the conversion rate and the shipping, I was like, no. So I'm just waiting for like an Australian release of it, which there will be a couple of retailers, and it'll probably be around the 380, 390. So, you know, going to save myself a little bit of money there. So that was one that I was more focused on. That's the thing lately. It feels like there's always another sneaker around the corner. Like you just said, the SP4s, I think that will probably be a little bit easier to get, in my opinion, than the brick by brick pairs. Hopefully. I don't know if you're feeling that, but man, yeah, it feels like there's always another sneaker around the corner. So I wouldn't be too worried for anyone who missed out on them and wanting to get a pair of those. Was there any sneakers that you're kind of, we already spoke about the 95 Neons, but are there any kind of either Air Max models or just maybe New Balance models, something that you're kind of super, super keen for?
Well, one of them is actually on the way to me. I did a bit of work. Well, I'm doing some work with StockX. So I managed to work out something for the Sneaker Politics Gel Kiano 14s.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lovely pair, man. It's obviously being dubbed the Iron Man colorway. And it was weird because I was so excited, hyping it up, sharing all the stories and stuff about it. Only come to realize on release, there's no UK shipping. So I was like, after all of that, you know, there was no, I just think, but yeah, luckily the StockX thing came around and managed to get my size for a decent deal and stuff like that. But I think the unions do stand out. The Jordan 1 unions, the Chicago Shadow. Again, that's going to be another myth. SB4, the navies, yes, pretty cool. But again, these sort of shoes, as hyped as they are, I'm kind of like expecting the worst, but sort of praying for the best kind of thing. So even if I do take the L, I'm like, you know what? It's cool. It's cool. I've got that low poly Donkey Kong pair. That looks okay. But again, it's not like if I don't get it, you know, I'm going to be that much, that bothered, you know? For me, my main focus, and I've said it all year, is the 95 Neons, man. I need to, even if I have to pay resell, you know, beans on toast, bro. Yeah.
Double up.
Double. Yeah, exactly. But
nice.
Yeah, those are the ones that stand out mostly. I think obviously the white cement 4s as well. Need a pair of those, bro. Need a pair of those. It's just, from what I've seen, the leather doesn't look the best, you know? But yeah. Let's see. How about you, bro? What's the ones that stand out?
I mean, for me, I've already got the union ones. I already saw those. I feel a little bit bad about getting those because I kind of did get sucked in a little bit. I probably paid way too much. Again, coming from the US, the conversion rate and the shipping, it always kills you when it comes to taking them to Australia. So like it's an extra, I reckon it's an extra 25% adding on top of whatever people in the US buy, getting them to Australia from a USA store. So again, that's why I didn't get the 991 V2s from Salehi Bembury. So some of those ones that I'm looking forward to, but I mean, I'm just excited for like, I don't know, I feel like I need to just wear more of my own pairs and just like, I'm just excited to kind of continue doing some more sneaker photography, which I've gotten a little bit more into. So excited to kind of pull out some more pairs. You know what I'm really excited for, especially because the winter has now come. Oh, it's not come yet, but it's about to, is wearing my New Balance loafers. I've basically not been able to wear them because I've been wearing shorts for 6 months, you know, and I've bought all of them around, well, August last year for the silver pair, and then earlier this year for that rich oak, you know, the suede pair. and I've not been able to properly wear them yet because it's hot and I don't feel like I am stylish enough to be able to pull them off with shorts. So wearing them with long pants is really my only option. So I'm super excited to get those on feet and also see what other colorways they come out with those loafers, because I know they definitely will be coming out with a lot more. I think Joe Freshgoods has a pair that was rumored that might be definitely on the radar, like a crocodile. I think it was a crocodile burgundy leather. I was like,
wow,
bro, that
only he can pull that off.
only Joe Freshgoods.
Yeah,
but that was like 7 months ago that was rumored. So man, I think maybe he leaked that and then was like, oh, maybe I should put more focus on the 992. So definitely excited to get those loafers on feet. But yeah, like today I just wore like the Armand Meunier 4s that I haven't been able to wear at all because it's been too hot. So I'm just excited to kind of go back in the rotation, you know what I mean, and kind of wear pairs that I haven't been able to, just because I live in such a hot climate and I can't feasibly wear all the big chunky sneakers that I want to. But yeah, that's kind of, I'm excited for just whatever pops up, to be honest. You know, like I love the Up There 860 V2s last year. Those were like my sneakers of the year. They're Up There's the Melbourne-based boutique sneaker and fashion store, and I was like, they just came out of nowhere. And so I'm just excited for any sort of random things that pop up. You know what I mean? Like I'm not particularly looking too far ahead. Maybe if I'm looking that far ahead, I'll look at the Travis Scott Fragment 1 lows.
Oh yeah,
maybe I think they're coming out in September. Looking forward to those, but again, it's a Travis Scott. It's probably going to be incredibly hard to get. So, but yeah, that's kind of on my radar. So not a huge amount, but definitely focusing on some of the pairs that I already have and re-wearing them. So I think that's kind of our time, man. Like that's been a great discussion about Air Max sneakers, some of the upcoming releases, some of the main points on your channel, how you kind of came into your content creation and sneaker like passion. So I really wanted to, first of all, just thank you for coming onto the podcast. It's really appreciated. I have definitely been enjoying your content for a while, so it's awesome to speak to you. Did you have any kind of final shout outs or any final messages before we sign off for the day for you and evening for me?
Yeah, no, once again, thank you for having me, bro. You've had some amazing guests, and I'm sure you'll get so much more. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, you know, whether it's photography, videos, stuff like that, because every bit of content is kind of like a new opportunity for someone to notice you and stuff like that. And that goes for everyone. You know, if you're thinking about getting into content, just do it. You know, you never know where it could lead you. And yeah, in terms of shout outs, live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. UK time, we do a live stream, myself and Hass co-host, and then Tripled Up podcast with myself, Prozek and Scott. That's like more, you know, organized. And then yeah, my channel's Life of a Broski for sneaker content and lifestyle, and tech, Erkin Hassan or the Tech Waffler. You know, Instagram as well, Erkin Hassan. But yeah, big thank you, bro. It's been a good chat about Air Max and other things. Yeah.
Some could say that every piece of content is a brick by brick building the house. You know, it's kind of see full circle. So I definitely agree with you there, that if anyone wants to get into sneaker content or any sort of content creation, whatever you're passionate about, just do it, because where you might think that you don't have a unique view or anything to bring, you're probably wrong, because you're an unique person, and everyone kind of can see that you might have a unique perspective about the subject, whatever it may be, sneakers or tech or whatever it will be. So yeah, I definitely second that. If anyone wants to get into it, just go for it. Just put out whatever you want and see what sticks. It's a lot of trial and error. I tell you what, it's a grind, and it's a lot of trial and error, and things go wrong sometimes and don't do very well. Just stick at it. I mean, I'm trying to live by that philosophy, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful, because you've just kept at it for such a long time. So again, really appreciate you jumping on, and thank you so much to everyone for watching. If you've been listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating. It definitely does help the channel and the podcast get pushed to more people. So if you want to subscribe and see more of these podcast episodes, that'd be really appreciated. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you so much to Erkin. Have a good day.
Peace.